Hello, welcome to this cosmic home where I talk through tools and strategies and mindsets that help you bring more harmony and happiness into your home so your family can walk into the world with the foundation of unconditional love. I'm your host, Isabel Jones. All right, so let's get into 2022 and the lessons that it will bring. Sorry that my voice sounds like I'm talking in a tin can. My mic just busted on me. So I have to use my headphones mic because it's a little bit better than the computer. Anyway, so let's talk about 2022. So we're starting the year with Venus in retrograde. And it's kind of just a time to reevaluate your relationship to things. If you are familiar with astrology, you follow a lot of accounts, you probably know all about Venus retrograde at this point. But personally, I believe that this is actually setting the stage for a lot of what 2022 is all about. I think that we kind of have to begin the year reevaluating how we relate to the things around us, what we will accept into our lives, what we will no longer accept into our lives, how we want to be treated, how we want to treat other things, our value systems and how we actually show our care and love to other people and how we receive it and all that fun Venus stuff. So that's kind of the beginning of the year. And the reason I think it's so important that we start with that evaluation of things is, some astrologers say that 2021 was the planets just like aligned. They just aligned in such a way. I don't know if 2021 felt like a difficult year for you, or if you noticed a lot of personal growth, or if you even just noticed that you started to become more aware of what you needed to heal and grow from and all that stuff. Like, there was just kind of like this sense of awareness that just kind of unlocked. And I listened to a lot of weekly readings over the year. And I mean, seriously, especially towards the end of the year, the planets aligned for us to finally become awake to just all of the defenses that we've had in place. And, I'm going to go through all of the outer planets in this because those are going to be really what sets the stage for the overall theme for the year. Whereas the more like the planets that are closer to us, they're going to be, kind of more of the monthly, weekly, quarterly, whatever themes. So that's at least how I view it. And so I'll be going over all of these, but I think like Pluto has been a major player because that's been one that's been in, what was it, Capricorn? Yeah, Pluto's been in Capricorn for since 2008. And we're actually coming very close to the end of that cycle. So I think for a very long time, we've just become closer and closer and closer to actually waking up. And there are so many other factors that, I'm not going to get into right now, but so many other factors, so many transits, so many aspects that have just, for anyone who is really aware of themselves, not even necessarily astrology, because I don't think you have to be aware of the planets in order to be affected by them. That would just not really make any sense. But, I think for anyone who is a little bit more in tune with themselves, I think it's been an intense year of personal internal growth, whether you've really fully acknowledged it or not. I know for me personally, I respond to things and situations and people so different than the way I used to, especially at the beginning of 2021 versus the end. If I'm sitting and reflecting, I'm like, I'm not a different person. I'm still me, but I'm just like, I can see everything that I'm doing. I'm no longer doing things and coming up with excuses for why it's okay. I'm no longer responding with just defenses. I'm no longer like, it's just, I'm more chill. I'm more aware. I'm like closer to the person I always wanted to be. And I would guess a lot of us are feeling that that sort of sense of alignment in who we've always wanted to be. So that's why I say that this, kicking off the year, finishing off the year, and then kicking off the new year with this Venus return, that the themes of it are going to last until March. So well into the first quarter of the year, or all of the first quarter of the year. And, I think that that is setting the stage for the rest of the year, because if we spent all of 2021 being influenced and being kind of guided to fix our internal world and become, at the very least, more aware of our internal world, if that's really what we've been doing and that's what the planets were aligned to do, and we were changing ourselves in an irreversible way, that's the big thing. It's like, yes, we've always had opportunity to change ourselves, but just something about how everything aligned this past year, we have been changing ourselves in a way that we're never going to go back. We're never going to go back to it. Like, if you quit drinking this year, you will probably never drink again. And if you do drink again, it's going to be like way easier for you to kind of get back on the saddle and keep, moving forward. Like, any changes that you made this past year are likely, like any personal changes are likely going to stick, and they're going to stay. So congrats. If you didn't change anything, well, you always have, it's never too late. So with this Venus return, I think what we're doing is we're looking at ourselves differently now, and we're seeing ourselves as being, I don't know, we're just taking ourselves more seriously. We're caring for ourselves better. We are seeing who we are, and we're like acknowledging that it's time to change. And so this Venus retrograde is kind of pushing us to evaluate everything in our lives as it relates to us now, who we have become, who we are ending this year, which is so different from who we were beginning last year. Like, that's just what's going to have to change, is how everything relates to us now. So where before maybe you put up with a friend constantly complaining about, just being a downer, and they continue to be a downer, and maybe you're like, I can't do that anymore. I can't just hear these downer stories. Like, I can't make you change, but I also don't have to hear what you have to say. Or maybe you're like, whoa, I've been working in this job that I hate, and you know what? If I'm looking at it, I could make it work to not do that anymore. So it's like you're starting to get to this point now where you're taking into account, like, okay, like a major shift for me was the way that my husband and I talk to each other. It hasn't always been very kind, because we both have our defenses, and our defenses kind of play on each other's triggers and traumas, and it's a really beautiful challenge to help us grow and overcome those things by constantly being reminded of it. And, and so finally, that's what we realized. We realized, okay, like, you're bringing up these triggers in me. That doesn't mean that we have to work against each other. And that doesn't mean that there's a winner in the fight. That means we have this opportunity to really push each other and push ourselves to grow. So that was probably how I respond to my traumas being triggered. That was a really, really big shift for me. So now that I have that, we were able to sit down, and say, hey, I don't like how we talk to each other anymore. I don't like how we fight with each other anymore. This is no longer working for me. I see that we deserve better than this. We deserve a better relationship than this. And that's going to be the big theme. Like, you're going to all of a sudden throughout, up until March, you're going to start to see all of these patterns that you used to just put up with because you thought, that's just how life works. But after this big awakening, now you're going to start seeing in this Venus return, or God, I keep saying return because it's my Venus return, but Venus retrograde, you're going to start seeing like, okay, this no longer works for me. And to be a little bit more specific, if you want to go and look at the house, if you look up your birth chart and then look at the transits and you see kind of which house this retrograde is happening in with Venus, it's Venus in Capricorn, that'll kind of show you the area of life you're probably about to upgrade. Like for me, it's in my first house and it's a return for me. So that means it's going to be like a really big hit. So if you have Venus in Capricorn and it's returning for you, you'll probably feel these effects a little bit more. But I mean, it's going to affect everyone. So you can look at where this is happening in your chart, just by looking at the transits against your natal chart. And, anyway, so So then moving on to the lessons we will be learning in 2022. I think it's going to be like intuitively, before I even looked into what some of these outer planets are doing, I kind of just thought, it's probably going to be more of the same. It's probably going to be the same. But we're going to handle it differently. That's going to be the big shift, is like, we are actually going to learn, like, and I truly believe all of the changes that have been made over the past 2 or 3 years, I think are going to stick. I think they're pretty permanent. So that's the good news. That's the thing. It's like, you can look at it as, oh, it's going to be more of the same. You can be super black-pilled and just assume that everything's going to be terrible forever. Or you can say, okay, wow, these challenges have pushed me to grow in ways where I can never go back. And sure, maybe it's challenging to be better than I was, but man, is it so much better, like being able to make those shifts and how me and my husband communicate. Like, I mean, we have a better relationship. We're happier now. We fight less. And then whenever we do get into arguments, it's better. And is it harder to be in an argument working together rather than working against each other? Yes. There are many times where I would rather just like put my wall up and say, no, it's my way. I get to be safe. I'm going to be safe by going against you. Yes, that's easier. But in the long run, it makes me more sad. So, that's kind of the big thing. That's like the big shift that's going to be happening, is like, we're going to handle all this stuff better and differently. And that's for those of us that have chosen to work with these energies, whether consciously or unconsciously. For those of us that have not, I think it's going to be a tough year. I really do. So let me tell you why. So I'm going to go through basically each of the outer planets from Jupiter on, and I'm going to just kind of go over, because these are going to be pretty much in the same sign for the entire year. And that's why I think these are going to be the big themes, the big lessons that we're going to learn that kind of take the entire year to get to. Because, like Jupiter, let's start with that. Jupiter is going to be in Pisces. It's been in Pisces. So this is kind of like 2-year lesson that we're learning, but Jupiter has been in Pisces. And the overall lesson I think that we are going to learn up till December 20th of 2022. So up until that point, we are going to have to learn that gratitude is something that you give. Because you've got Jupiter, which is really big on expanding, but then Pisces really likes to have that spirituality, that community. It's not like, huge on the community aspect of it, but it's really just having compassion for other people. And I think that over the past year or two, especially, you've heard of gratitude journaling. You've heard all these things like, oh, we have to be grateful. If you want to manifest your dream, you got to be grateful for what you have, and you have to, express gratitude for having it, even though you don't have it, blah, blah, blah. And it just kind of got to this point where it's like, okay, so I have to basically just force myself to be grateful all the time. And that's pretty much, it's like that toxic gratitude. We're going to have that one now. But that's really what it is. It's like just forcing yourself to write down a list of everything that you're grateful for. Over 2022, we're going to start to see proof, and we're going to start to realize and learn that gratitude isn't something that you can just create within yourself. Yes, if you make a gratitude list, you might feel those warm and fuzzy feelings for a moment. You might. But then they go away, and then you're like, crap, I'm not grateful anymore. So the big thing is like, we're going to realize, I don't remember where I heard this, but, gratitude is something that you can give. And that's going to be the really big thing. It's like, if you're feeling ungrateful, go and do something kind for someone else. And that's where the compassion's going to come in. Like, if you're feeling something, if you go and help someone else overcome that feeling, you will no longer have that feeling. And that's really the big theme, because Pisces really does give into that spirituality and that intuition, and all of that intuition is supposed to be connected collectively. And so then, if we want to have compassion for ourselves and we want to have good things in our lives, we need to give that first. And that's going to be the big thing, is you're going to have to give something away before you're going to get it back. Like, you tip your barista a little bit of extra money that day, and you're going to see that return, and you're going to feel grateful already for being able to give. And that's really the big thing, is like having gratitude for the ability to give. I mean, do you know how bad it feels like when you're standing in line and it feels terrible when they're like, oh, do you want to round up to give to this charity? And you say no. Like, it feels bad. And then you're like, just in the back of your head, you're like, oh, what's 50 cents? Why did I say no? You know, so that's really what this big theme is going to be. It's like, just say yes. Just give the 50 cents. You'll get 50 cents later. It's money. Give it away. Whatever. Who cares? You know, you'll get more later. So that's kind of the big thing with this. And, you know, the flip side. So this is where I think we're kind of getting into this like dual reality for people, because I think the flip side of that, the flip side of the compassion, the flip side of the gratitude, the flip side of the generosity that comes from Jupiter, like the flip side of that is people are going to contract. They're going to use some of that expansive energy to expand inward, but not in like a good way. Like a lot of escapism, you know, I think people are going to have a lot more, like anyone who already is practicing cognitive dissonance, they're going to double down. I think that's going to be something we're going to see a lot of. Like if you're already not aware, this is not the year you're going to get aware. If you didn't do that last year, it's not happening this year. That's what I'm seeing. So, you know, but with that, if you are someone who is aware, if you are someone who's worked on that awareness, who's let go of cognitive dissonance, who chooses to see both sides of the coin, who chooses to argue against yourself and the people you believe in and the people you don't believe in, you know, like that's really the big thing. If you're someone that chose to do that and you're someone that stepped into that over the last year and you're willing to be different and you're gaining that courage, like you're going to have to really practice compassion and that, you know, that gratitude for the people who are escaping, for the people who have the cognitive dissonance. Jupiter in Pisces is asking you to have compassion for them. And that's how you're going to get what you want. That's really the big thing here, is like, if you just sit there and you're like, it doesn't matter what side you're on. It does not matter what side you're on. That's not the thing that's going to determine if you're going to have a good year or not. No, it doesn't matter. The universe doesn't care whose side you're on, because it doesn't matter. We're all on the same side. We're all people. Who cares? But regardless of what side you're on, if you see someone that you disagree with, if you see someone and you're just like, you're wrong, and you feel hate and animosity and you just want to push them away and you want to just like double down and you want to practice that escapism where rather than opening yourself up to them, you decide to just close yourself off, that's what's going to hurt you. That's cognitive dissonance. That's not what Jupiter in Pisces is going to reward. So, you know, if you're really trying to make 2022 a good year and you're trying to move forward and you're trying to learn, have compassion for those people that you disagree with. Give them love. When you can love them, you have accessed true gratitude and you have given gratitude. And you have, you know, that's really the big lesson that we're trying to learn, that we're going to get from Jupiter. And, you know, I mean, like, yes, we might feel a little bit restricted, and it might be because of that. It might be because of things happening in the world. There might be some restriction that's going to make us want to give in to that escapism, give in to that cognitive dissonance. Like, but the big thing is, like, if you can find a way to see those restrictions and instead of get frustrated about it and instead say, like, what is this teaching me? What have I not seen yet? What have I not learned yet that's keeping me from doing this? You know, like if you're someone that like, you really want to, I don't know, we'll just go with the trendy one. You really want to start a business, but you just can't seem to get it off the ground. You just can't seem to get to where you want to be. You can't seem to find the clients. You can't seem to do this or that or whatever. You know, if you're feeling that restriction, then maybe there's a lesson that you need to learn. And you could just double down. You could get frustrated. But again, it's that compassion. It's that trust. It's like, just believe that there's a reason that you're not getting to where you want to get yet. You know, I mean, like, just believe it. And then ask yourself, like, what are your blind spots here? Who am I leaving out? Who am I not considering? What am I not considering? All of that stuff. So, you know, and like for a good while, actually, from like May to October, Jupiter is actually going to go into Aries for a little bit. And I think that's going to be when we get to really act on a lot of the stuff that we're that we're learning this year. And we're going to get a taste of it for a good bit of the year. And that's going to be nice, but it's just not, because then it's going to go right back into Pisces. So it's like you're going to get a taste, you're going to get to see how you do, and then you're going to have to go back and reevaluate. Okay, was I compassionate? Did I push anyone away? Did I leave anyone out? Like, then you're going to have to go back and see, okay, did I pass the test, or is there still more that I need to learn? And the chances are yes, because having compassion for people that drive you insane is very hard to do. And, think whoever it is you want to think, that they give you this many opportunities to learn. And that's, again, that gratitude. You have to give the gratitude. You don't just have gratitude. You don't just say, oh, I'm grateful for all I have. It's like you also have to become grateful for the lessons that you have to learn. So that's the opportunity that we have with Jupiter, which is great. Isn't that nice? We all get to learn to love people better. Cool. All right, let's do it, Jupiter. Anyway, so if you want to see the areas of life where you're going to find like a little bit more joy over the next year, again, go and check those transits. Pull up your birth chart, kind of check and see where Jupiter is sitting, which house it's sitting in, and that's going to be where you might find a little bit more joy. That might be the place where maybe you need to give gratitude. Maybe you need to learn those lessons, Maybe that's where you're going to have to learn the lessons. That's where you're going to find the most joy. But again, like, there's two sides to every coin. So there's two sides to these energies, and you're either going to gain the gift of compassion and love and good, happy, peace feelings, no matter what, or you're going to get even more afraid of what's going on. You're going to get even more frustrated with the people around you. You're going to fall further into this trap where like the only social interaction you have is through browsing Instagram. Like, it's either going to be that, or you're going to have a great time and you're going to be like, everyone's love and everything's rainbows and it's all great. That's what I'm getting from this. So have fun with that one. Good luck. See you on the other side. So then we have Saturn, and Saturn again is all of these lessons are like amazing. They're so good. And I think that if we're looking at the world, we're realizing all of this animosity that we're feeling for each other, all of this like division, all of this butting heads, all of this like, trying to control, it's there for a reason. It's not there to hurt you. It's there to teach you how to love through it. And if you can't love through it, you are no better than the people that you hate right now, whoever it may be. Like, whoever you currently hate right now, the fact that you're hating them, you're the same as them. Like, just know that. And so that's going to be, a big theme of Saturn. And with Saturn in Aquarius up until March of 2023, that's going to be, it's been in Aquarius for a while. And hello to any millennials going through their Saturn return while it's in Aquarius. I believe, my husband's is this February. Mine's going to be the following February. So already feeling those energies. I don't know. I'll do an episode on Saturn return, probably in February, but yeah, so that's a fun one. But anyway, so moving along. So the theme of Saturn in Aquarius is autonomy is a two-way street. So the thing is like, Saturn is really a time to build boundaries, set routines, like remove anything and everything that's like no longer working in our lives. It's basically Marie Kondo is Saturn. Like, that's what she is. Her whole entire energy is Saturn, probably in like Capricorn or maybe Taurus or something, but it's in Aquarius. And so that's I think every sign that Saturn goes into, it's showing us, okay, this is the area of life. Every sign, every house, that's the area you need to set boundaries in. You need to remove the excess. You need to set your routines. You need to like make sure that you only have the best and the most effective and efficient of anything. So that's the big thing with Saturn, and it's been in Aquarius for a while. And Aquarius is really big on like community and social structures, but like kind of destroying them and then building a new one. I don't think that Aquarius is the destruction of it, but it's like really just looking at what's wrong and finding really innovative ways to fix it. So I think that we're going to be, and Saturn is like kind of the test. It's like the big test of the zodiac. So we're going to be feeling a little tested, especially on our and we've been feeling this. I mean, since, 2020, like I think it went into Aquarius and I had a retrograde and whatever, but like for a few years now, we have been feeling tested in our social lives, our morals, are the things that we associate with, and like the way that we're contributing to our communities. Those are really big Aquarian themes, and that's where we're being tested. I mean, like, come on. Social lives? Come on. Morals? Come on. Like, all of it. So that's still continuing up until the beginning of next, not 2022, but 2023. And so we're still, it's basically, then this is why I say it's just more of the same, but we're just kind of coming to the end of the lesson rather than starting at the beginning. So it's more of the same, but now we have the newfound energy of aligning, we cleared out the junk within ourselves this past year. So now it's time to clear out the junk externally. Like maybe that is in your home, and maybe it is like, maybe it is in your social life. Maybe it's going to be in how you use social media. Maybe it's going to be in the communities that you're part of. Like, it's really just clear out the junk and don't be afraid. And that's the big thing is this, I think this Venus retrograde is helping us to gain the courage. It's helping us to see like, oh, I don't have to be afraid to ask for this because I know I deserve it. Like I see that I deserve that. So I don't have to be afraid of getting it anymore. So we're just evaluating, we're continuing to evaluate. And again, that's all of this upheaval, all of this stuff that's been going on, all that's doing is showing us what no longer serves us. We get to see, how does my friend treat me when we think differently? I mean, isn't that like literally what we've always said our entire lives is like a real friend is someone that like is still your friend even when you don't agree. They are like, like nothing can pull you apart. Well, you know what? A lot of friendships have ended. A lot of friendships have just completely dissipated because of opposing views and opposing morals. And while that's not bad, you at least get to see, like, I think the friends that treat each other well, even though they disagree, that's the moral. Like, not having this strong, if your morals tell you to not talk to someone that disagrees with you, your morals are not very great, wouldn't you think? But if your morals are, you're treating me bad, and so I'm going to protect myself and distance myself from you until you're ready to treat me better, that's it. That's the moral. So that's the clearing out that we're doing. It's not like, oh, you think differently than me. It's like, oh, whoa, you're being really mean to me. I'm not going to be able to talk to you because all you're doing is filling me with negativity and you're just bringing me down. And I don't have the strength to stay up here while you're pulling me down here. So I'm going to have to remove myself from you until either I'm stronger or you're nicer. And that's pretty much the big theme of Saturn and Aquarius. And that's really what has been going on. I think a big thing that's going to come up too is like our relationship with technology and social media. I mean, I think we're already seeing this happen. Like, and yeah, obviously there's like, oh, I'm not going to have a social media break, whatever. Yeah, so there's that. But I actually kind of predict this split happening. And I mean, that's the whole thing. Like, the division just kind of is going to happen because we can't control everyone and not everyone sees things the same way. So it's just going to happen. So I'm seeing the split happening here where like there's going to be people that are saying enough is enough. I got to go and hug my people. Like, I need to be able to hug them. I need to be able to see them. And I need to be able to like be in human energy, one-on-one, in person, within hugging distance. Like, that's what I need. And they're going to start saying like, social media is not good enough. It's not good enough. And then you're going to have the other side of people that are going to say, that's all I have. It's all I can do. This is all that I have. So I'm just going to have to find ways to let social media replace my human interaction. And I think that we're going to have those two kind of splits. I mean, some people are going to only have internet besties and some people are going to have are going to be done with it. So, and I mean, again, the good news is we're going to have a lot of confidence in what we do. So it's not really a matter of like sitting on it and saying, oh, I don't know. Like, I think we're going to move forward with confidence. And I think any people that we've had to remove from our lives because they no longer help us grow, I think that we're going to be okay with it. I think it's not going to be like, maybe it'll be sad, like, oh, I wish that it could have been better. But I think for the most part, it's going to be like, oh, yeah, like, it's sad, but I understand. I understand what I have to do and why I have to do it. So that's going to be good because I think last year maybe we started to see what we need to cut out, even with social media, like not just people, but I think maybe we started to see like, oh, I probably shouldn't be binging Netflix so much. Oh, I probably shouldn't be sitting on social media so much or, whatever. And I think that we maybe saw that, but we didn't have the courage, the strength, the confidence, whatever it may be, to actually do it. So then, this Venus retrograde is going to kind of push us in, and it's going to say, okay, it's time. Your relationship to this is either you need to commit or you need to let go. And so, like, that's also going to lead a lot of people to demand more. With this confidence, now we're setting our boundaries. We are creating our structures. We are ready to start building this year. This is kind of our big chance to rebuild our communities, rebuild our society. And so I think that people are going to be demanding more. We've seen a lot of the cracks in our healthcare and our community leaders and the technology that we use. Like, we've seen the cracks in those systems. So we're kind of like, okay, we're tired of patching them up. So we need more. We need you to build us a whole new building. We need you. That's basically going to be, a big theme for this year. So I wouldn't say it's going to make more peace, but, we'll see what happens. So, but this is kind of where the autonomy comes in, because obviously we're all seeing the cracks in the system. We're all seeing it. Pretty much everyone can agree that there are cracks in the system. The autonomy part is we don't agree on what the cracks are or how to fix them. That's the disagreement that's going to be happening here. That's the big split that's going to be happening here. And the thing is whoever forces their own version of progress, anyone who forces that on another person is ultimately going to lose. That's kind of what I see. I think the use of force here is what is going to determine who actually gets what they want and who doesn't. Because the thing is if you're forcing something on someone else, you don't even have it. But if you just have it for yourself and you allow other people to have whatever the heck they want, you have it. You have the thing you want. So that's going to be where I think we're going to feel that urge. Like, again, back to Jupiter, they're working together here. Like, we're going to feel the urge to just pummel or just get rid of, or, like really just force our hand on what everyone else is doing. And we're going to see something that's happening and say, wrong, no, don't do it that way. But we just have to remember, like, we're not actually free to be who we want to be if we're forcing other people to do what we want them to do. Because what that does, it doesn't matter what you're forcing right now. You have to think of it in the long term. Like, if you're forcing something, that means someone can force something on you later. So if you are agreeing with, all of, just if you are someone who is really pushing for force, you just need to understand that if you're not giving autonomy, you're going to lose your autonomy. And the thing is like, Saturn gives you the test, but he also gives you the grade. So that's going to be like the big thing there is, yes, this is the test. Do you believe in autonomy and freedom, or do you believe in force? If you believe in autonomy and freedom, you have to give it no matter what, like, yes, obviously defend your own freedom for you to be free, but you also have to allow others to be free as well. And you have to allow others to have their sovereignty, their autonomy. You have to allow that, even if it seems wrong, even if it's hard for you, but you have to, because otherwise you don't have it. And that's really the big lesson here is like, you know. And the other thing is be steadfast. Like if you believe in something, it can't change circumstantially. It can't change based on the situation. It can't change based on who you're around. It can't change based on how you feel that day. That's not a real moral or ideal or belief. That's just grifting. So that kind of stuff isn't really going to fly anymore. Like you got to be consistent and form your beliefs and then stick to them. And honestly, it's just going to make your life easier because you're going to be able to just know what works for you in every situation. So that's going to be the big thing with Saturn. So again, you can check the house that it's transiting in your chart, and see kind of, and that's going to be the area where you're going to need to like slow down. So like if you've been hustling with work, you're going to need to slow it down. You're going to need to reevaluate. You're going to need to pair it up against your values, and you're going to need to say, is this waste? Is this working? And then that's going to be the area too where you're going to have to like mature a little bit, like grow up, you know, pick something and then stick to it. That's really the big thing with Saturn is like pick it, you get to choose it, but then you need to stick to it. And then you need to leave room for other people to pick their thing and stick to it. So yeah, that's Saturn. So then Uranus is going to be, I mean, this has been since 2018 and it's going to be here till 2026. So I think this is something, it's in Taurus and it's going to pretty much be there forever. So well, it feels like forever, and it's been there already for forever. And this is really teaching us that comfort only comes from within. And this is a pretty important lesson because obviously our finances aren't doing so well. Obviously our comfort in material things is fleeting because material things are not a given. We all learned that it doesn't matter what job you have, it is not safe. We all learned it doesn't matter where you live or how much it costs, like, yeah, there's no guarantee. Like, this is something we learned very strongly right in the middle, well, kind of towards the beginning. 2020 was closer to 2018 than 2026. But yeah, so really the big lesson here is like, you gotta just stop clinging to your stuff. That's pretty much the big thing, you know? I mean, and we haven't even experienced Uranus and Taurus since the Great Depression, since World War II. So obviously, you know, that was a time where people had to realize, like, we were all big, like, oh, the 20s, blah, 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 everything's good. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh, crap. We can't just drink champagne all the time and call it a day. Like, we actually have to feel good inside. I mean, I don't know what they were thinking. They just went to war. I don't think that's the solution. But, I mean, that was the last time that it was in Taurus. So we can kind of look at the themes that were going on then and see, like, what could have made it better? Obviously, terrible time. Obviously, no one should have to go through that. Obviously, all that stuff. But still, there's always a way to make every situation okay. So now we can kind of look at that and say, like, okay, so with the economy tanking, what can we do? Like, how can we make ourselves, how can we not waste our time? How can we not waste our life? And on it, I think that we're still at the very beginning of this lesson. Obviously, like, we still have, like 4 more years to figure out how to find comfort from within ourselves. But I mean, we're seeing a lot of what material comfort looks like. I mean, you just look at the billionaires that have been thriving during this pandemic, and then you look at the people who have totally just been suffering the entire time, and you can see, like, the billionaires, they're not happy. I mean, like, I think if you've listened to anything I say, you know I'm not a huge fan of Jeff Bezos. It seems like he thinks that the only way to be safe and happy is to have money. And he really doesn't care who gets hurt along the way. And it's like, the reality is he would be a much happier, much more productive person if he took a lesson from Jupiter and entered into giving gratitude to the people around him, you know? So we're just kind of seeing that. Like, we're seeing the fact that money and having enough money for generations upon generations to just literally, like, piss it all away, like, and, you know, like, that doesn't that doesn't make you happy. That doesn't make you a good person. It doesn't make people like you. And having money is not the bad part. It's just believing that money is, and the end all say all to being happy. That's the part where we're like, okay, that doesn't really work anymore. And we've all kind of gotten into, you just look at people before 2018. Even beyond that, like you just look at how people have been in the past. It's like you go to school, you literally spend your entire childhood working. We've developed a school system where our children go to school for 8 hours a day, come home, have more homework than their parents have ever had to work in their lives. Kids are working harder during their childhood, which is fleeting and short. And then we go to college, and then we stay in school for our early young adulthood, which is another really important moment to find joy, to create joy in your life, not to create wealth. And then you get a job and you live in a box, and then you go in your box and you go from your house box to your car box to your work box back to your car box so you can spend more time in your house box. This is the system that we've had for a really long time. And I think that since 2018, Taurus is really showing us that's not it. That's not what we were trying to get you to work towards. That's not the thing. The thing is get in the ground, get in the dirt, get with your people, get with yourself. And that's where the happiness is. That we gave this to you for a reason. We didn't want you to have the box. We wanted you to be in the dirt. And so, I think the big thing here is we're going to need to learn to stop valuing money more than the minutes of our life. Because the reality is you cannot value both. Yes, you can appreciate money for what it can bring you. You can appreciate money for bringing you tools that can extend the minutes of your life. But beyond that, the reality is if you value money, you cannot value your life, because the very nature of getting money in the current system is trading the minutes of your life for money. And that's just what's going to have to change. And it's up to you to figure out what you want to do. But I think that we're going to see a massive shift in what people value and where people find comfort. And I think it's really going to go beyond how much space they have in their home, how many things they have in their home, how much money they have in their account, how many things they can buy. People more and more are talking about starting communes. And if there were ever a time to start a commune, 2022 is the time. If you're interested, call me up. I just want some land where I can have a small house, pile my family into it, and then work in my garden all day, watch the sunsets every single night, and call it a day. So let's make it happen. It's the year for it. But that's really, Uranus is really trying to tell us you're never going to find it. That comfort that you're seeking, you are never going to find it in what you're doing right now. This hustle culture, this side hustle, whatever, no, not going to happen. Either quit the side hustle or quit your day job and live with less, because that's going to make you happier. That's what Uranus is telling us. So then Neptune, super long transit from 2011 to 2026. And it's in Pisces. So the big thing here is you cannot heal what you will not see. And Neptune actually rules Pisces. So we're in a bit of a blessing to be able to experience this, because, we get to experience Neptune in its sign. And so it's just saying the depths of the ocean, it's time to acknowledge it. All of that in our subconscious, which is kind of represented by the ocean because it is deep and wide. I don't know if you guys know that song. No. Okay, I won't sing it. It's fine. But anyway, so, I think that Neptune returning to its home sign is kind of the end of the world as we know it. It's kind of merging the conscious with the unconscious. And this is happening for the first time in 165 years, which is why I say it's kind of a blessing that we get to live through this. Because not everyone gets to. And it's really like the rise in spirituality that we've seen over the past, what is it, a decade now? I don't even know what is time. But, you know, the rise in spirituality is because of this. It's because we're no longer able to just sit in ignorance of how important it is to connect to more than just ourselves. Like we can't do that anymore. It's not possible. I mean, at this point, like, it's just depressing to think that you're it. That's it. So, you know, like we're seeing this resurgence of astrology and other world belief systems. Like we're seeing kind of a merging between the East and the West coming together. And I think that since 2011, we've seen this rise in people finally admitting the darkness that's within themselves and in the world. And, you know, I literally just saw this before I came on to record this. And it was like this meme that was like, we have to stop equating darkness with evil, because darkness is where things grow. I mean, we were created in darkness. The womb is dark. You know, you plant a seed into the ground. That's dark. The universe is literally dark, you know, so darkness is not evil. So by bringing up the dark truths about ourselves and the world, it's not like inherently evil. It's just, this is where something is brewing. Something is happening here. Something is being planted. Some seed is being planted and something is growing. And if we are unwilling to see it, and we're unwilling to admit it, and we're unwilling to like acknowledge that this is happening, we cannot heal it, we cannot fix it, we cannot change it. So that's really the big theme that's going on, and it will continue for the next few years. And I think it's a good one because, I mean, we've got a lot of healing to do. And I think that, honestly, maybe this is optimistic of me. Maybe it's my Saturn or Sagittarius rising. But I honestly believe we are getting very close to the day that there is no more trauma to pass on. I honestly believe that. And I think that we are starting to see some of the first few generations that are given the privilege of ending generational trauma. If you go back and you listen to, okay, had to grab some water. So yeah, if you go back and listen to my Healing Childhood Wounds episode, I talk a lot about why we haven't really been able to face trauma yet, why we have not been able to raise people without trauma. And I think it's just because of the pure development of the world. We had other things to worry about. Like, we couldn't worry if our kids didn't feel comfortable crying because we had to make sure that, you know, saber-toothed tigers weren't going to kill us, or, you know, then we had to make sure that, I don't know. So anyway, you can go listen to it. But anyway, so yeah, I think the big thing with Neptune is we're finally able to see what we need to change, especially on an unconscious, like, emotional level. And I think that we have to see it. We have to see the things that we don't like. We have to see the things that are not great. And that's, again, kind of going back to Jupiter. I think Jupiter is really like the big player this year specifically in the lessons that we're learning. But if you go back to Jupiter and you know, remember, like, I have to hear every side of the argument. I have to hear what people are saying, and I have to learn how to be grateful for either learning how to say agree to disagree without animosity, or for being able to learn something new that I was avoiding because I didn't want to see the depths of my unconscious. I didn't want to see what seeds were planted when I wasn't aware. Like, you know, it's hard to see that. And there are plenty of people that are not going to. There's plenty of people that will not. But that's part of it. And if you want to be better, and if you want the world to be better, you're going to have to start seeing these truths that are just part of you and part of the world. You know, but then again, there's always a flip side. So on the flip side of this is going to be a lot of manipulation and lying, because people aren't going to want you to see. So the people that don't want to see it, or the people who don't want you to see their mistakes, they're going to lie and they're going to manipulate. And, you know, and it is going to be from the people who benefit from keeping us in the dark about all those little seeds that either they're knowingly planting or unconsciously planting or have planted within themselves. And, you know, I think it's really, if this transit is going to teach us everything that we are supposed to learn, I think that it's really dependent on as many people as possible choosing to find the truth. That's really going to be the big thing here, is like, we have an opportunity. The door to the unconscious has been open since 2011, and it will continue to be open until 2026. So if you can learn to see the truth and seek truth and find truth, no matter how hard it is to see it within yourself. I mean, like, I have made a vow to myself to no longer be cognitively dissonant, to no longer practice cognitive dissonance. And it is hard. Like, there are so many things about myself that I just like don't want to know. I don't want to know. It would be a lot easier if I could just pretend that I'm not like that. Like, especially when it comes to parenting. Like, there are plenty of things where I would love to say, oh no, it's fine, my kids are fine. But I know I'm not perfect. I've not been a perfect mom. Do I want to know it? No. But am I going to be better by knowing it? Absolutely. Do my kids deserve that? Without a doubt. So do I deserve that? 100%. So that's kind of what we have to choose to do. We have to choose to not give in to the cognitive dissonance, not give in to the fear, not give in to the rejection of pain. Because again, if you won't see it, you cannot heal it. And that's going to be what Neptune has been teaching us for all these years. And we're just going to have to learn to stop taking other people's word for it. So that's Neptune. So then the final planet, Pluto. Pluto's been in Capricorn since 2008. So I would say we probably are, and it's about to be done. 2024, it'll be done in Capricorn. So the big theme here is what stays in the dark destroys the light. That's the theme of Pluto in Capricorn that I've gathered. So, you know, for over a decade, we've been pushed into restructuring our lifestyles. And we've questioned a lot of traditions, like less people are getting married or like staying home with their kids. And I even think that is going to become something, at least staying home with your kids, I think is going to become a question. That's an episode I'll be doing, not next episode, but the one after that, motherhood and staying home with kids. So that'll be fun. But, you know, I mean, we're really questioning our government structures. We're questioning science. We're just overall, we are questioning the success of lifestyles, traditional lifestyles. And I think we're kind of in this process of picking and choosing what we actually need and what we don't. Pushing away what doesn't work, taking in what does work. You know, Capricorn is ruled by Saturn. So a lot of those Saturnian themes are coming into Pluto right now. And Pluto is really big on like the end, destruction. So it kind of plays on Capricorn a little bit because it's like, okay, see the structure, destroy the structure, basically. You know, so like right now, another thing too, kind of playing in with, what's it called? Neptune. Playing with Neptune, I haven't talked this long in a long time, so my throat's kind of going, but playing with Neptune, our unconscious behaviors and biases are in review as well. And I think we're nearing a conclusion on that, or we're beginning to awaken on what it really means to be in control of ourselves. And I think we're seeing how bias and unconscious behaviors actually affect our lives and how they play on a grand scale as well. So I think that a lot of that has been coming up. I mean, this is going to be very slowly because Pluto moves very slow. So it's like slowly but surely. Some of us were kids in 2008, and so now we're becoming adults and we were able to watch those structures. We were able to see the outcome of certain decisions and certain things that people did. And we were able to see that. And so now that we're adults coming up to 2024, we're able to say, no more. That doesn't work for me. So I think that's really the big thing. And, now that we're in the final years of this transit, I think that we're going to start seeing some breakthroughs. Like this year, last year, I think that's where the breakthroughs have really started to come in. And, again, so the breakthroughs happen on a personal level. We start to see our personal unconscious behaviors come up and our biases come up. And then now I think we're going to start seeing it on a collective level. We're going to start to see, okay, what does an awakened collective do? What does that look like? What does that look like on a home front? What does that look like on a grand scale? So now I think we're starting to get into those, because then it's going to go into Aquarius. So that'll be fun. But that's not for a little while. So we'll talk about that later. But another interesting thing that is happening this year is Pluto will be returning to the same place it was in when the US was formed, which is pretty big. And because we don't always get to experience a Pluto return because it's for freaking ever until it gets back to the same spot. So unless you're a vampire, you probably don't really know what that is like. Or you're like in these countries that have been around for forever. But anyway, so basically it's kind of like we're returning back to the basic foundation of what the country was based on. So the big thing is like, I want to say that the U.S.'s rising is Sagittarius, I believe. I want to say that. Don't quote me on it. I'll go check some other time. But, Sagittarius is really big on spirituality and philosophy. And so like a lot of those ideals of like equality, representation, blah, 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 that the country was based on, ironically, because at that time we still had slavery and, women didn't have any rights or whatever. So, while it was an ironic, very kind of misleading belief system that was structured, it was a good idea. Like the idea of what the country is founded on is good. The implementation of it at the time was not correct. So now, and terrible also, like, I understand it's a big deal, but, for all intents and purposes, not correct is good. So now, if you really think about it, sure, yeah, you could say we have work to do. Sure, yeah, things are not very good. They're not perfect. I know a lot of people like to dog on the US, but, I think for the most part, the US is built on really great ideas. And if you look at our history, like really look at it unbiased, you'll see we've made more progress than not. We have gotten a lot farther along than a lot of people give us credit for. And so in this Pluto return, I think that we're going to continue to see the systems and the structures that are still in place that are holding us back from freedom and liberty for everyone, not just certain types of people, but for everyone. Because again, if you're controlling one person, the door is open for you to be controlled. So that's not true freedom and liberty if half the country is being controlled and half the country isn't. That's not real, because then it just takes a small little flip in the scale to start for your side to be controlled. So that's something to just keep in mind. But I think that with this return, I honestly believe that the systems that are trying to control us are going to crumble. I think that they are continuing to crumble because that's not what we're based on. That's not the contract that we signed. And Saturn is all about contracts. And so if you want to look at the Declaration of Independence as a contract, Saturn is pretty much saying you have to do that. You signed a contract. You don't get to decide that it's different. So this one's really big on like world leaders who agreed to something and then took it back. Basically, like whoever's not upholding the contract, that's gonna start to crumble a little bit. So, I think that especially moving into Aquarius, because that is going to be a lot of humanitarian ideals. It's going to be a lot of equality, social justice, for like in the real sense of the word, like true social justice. And I think that on an individual level, I think we're going to have to look at our own lives and ask ourselves, where are we restricting ourselves and other people from their freedom and liberty? Like, where are we restricting that? I mean, maybe not so much for people outside of the US, but especially if you're a US citizen, you're probably going to be pushed into upholding those values because you're a citizen, which means you agree with the contract. So, whatever contract it is that you signed, you're going to have to stick to it, pretty much. So, yeah, so we're really going to be moving into this place where the system's created beyond like February of 2022, when that Pluto return hits. I think it's really going to have to stick to that liberty and freedom, or it's not going to be foundationally sound. So, yeah, that's 2022. So just to reiterate those lessons that we're going to be learning. Number 1, gratitude is something that you give. Number 2, autonomy is a two-way street. Number 3, comfort only comes from within. Number 4, you can't heal what you won't see. And number 5, what stays in the dark destroys the light. So really, just continue to awaken, continue to be conscious, continue to be critical, as critical of yourself as you are others. Continue to be kind and compassionate. And continue to develop these skills. You don't have to do it perfectly. You just have to do your best. No one's asking you to be perfect. But, if you want the world to change, can't wait for someone else to do it. You can't wait. You can't. You just pretty much have to change yourself. And that's it. So enjoy your new year. And I'll be coming in monthly to sort of showcase how we'll be creating these changes, how we'll be learning these lessons on a smaller scale each month. So have a good new year. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider following on the platform where you like to listen to podcasts. If you use Apple Podcast, feel free to leave a review. And as always, you can reach me at This Cosmic Home on Instagram. I love answering questions and hearing all about your experiences in my messages. So, there you go.